5 plus. Right 5 plus, left 6 into small crest, into right 5.
Welcome to First Car Out. We've got Levi Johnson on the podcast today to talk to you about Rally. We're going to learn about a little to the Olympus Rally two-wheel drive battle that took place, as well as learn a bit about how he acquired his BMW, his first rally experience, and some of the other interesting stories along the way, and a little bit more. Welcome to First Car Out. This is a podcast where we talk rally, so that's what I really want to talk to you about today. We have Levi Johnson on the phone. Do you want to introduce yourself? And what drew you to the sport?
Levi Johnson. I run car 127, the red BMW E30, previously the Gabe Mobile. It's one of the things I really like about some of these regional or the open two-wheel drive stuff is it seems like there's always a little bit of money going on in there, whether it's the
Yes.
Al Dante's 50 Forever Championship deal going on, or these little Sisu Challenge or whatnot. Has been really fun for I guess kind of the mid-tier pack or mid-level build pack.
Right.
So
I mean, there's a little bit of something for everyone. And I mean, how many times do you get approached and say, like, oh, you're into racing? You're like, yeah, rally. Like, oh, do you win any money when you win? You're like, no, you're lucky if you just don't wreck your car.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've gone out pretty well. I think 23 LSPR. We won the 43i Institute Flat Out Forever, plus some Sisu Challenge stuff and whatever. I swear I walked away from that event with like $4,000. It was just unheard of.
Yeah, that event had quite a lot of swag getting tossed around. I got a bunch of random things for a lot of weird misfortune.
Yep.
So
yeah, and even it's fun because it's not just who's at the top of open two-wheel drive or whatnot. It's like just the things that the community comes up with are pretty funny. The person to roll but land on their wheels again gets a skateboard, or the first to blow up 2 motors, or whatever.
Yeah.
As always seems like there's a little something for everybody in there, and I ended up getting a Gen 2 Milwaukee Stubby Impact. I'm like, what the heck is this for? And it's like, oh, you finished 6th on a stage.
Yeah,
the 6th person and the 9th finisher got Milwaukee tools. I'm like, oh, right. And that's like my favorite tool now. I love that thing.
that's awesome. Yeah, I got a little tire inflator because I had so many flats. I think I had the most flats that year. A little Milwaukee 12-volt guy. Okay, so
it's awesome what the community comes up with.
Oh yeah. I'm sure there's gonna be another great one for LSPR towards the end of the year here, or if someone's organizing one for SOFR already, hint, hint, you probably should get started.
Yeah, coming up.
Yeah.
Entry open.
It did it already? It's time for me to check the subs.
I believe so.
I'm gonna plan to come down to visit that one. It's a very accessible one because you can like hop between the stages. It's close to service. It's pretty open. So maybe that one's going to be a 2-part episode. Just go around and get some in situ stories.
39 entries so far in SOFR.
Nice. Are you the type of person that follows along when you're racing the sneak attack? Are you checking your splits and competitiveness throughout the day or no?
I usually have my co-driver. Whenever we have signal, I kind of, have him fill me in on how we're doing on that. We'll see if we have a tight battle going on with somebody and how I'm feeling in the car, whether we want to push just a little bit more, see if we can get somebody else out on that. A little bit of something that you taught me at my first race, whether you know it or not, was don't push when you don't have to.
Right.
If there's somebody close, you can go for it. You can try to play that a little bit, or try to put a little pressure on somebody that's been, hot on your heels, and see if that's just enough to try to get them to, loop a corner on a hairpin or, whatever. But my first race, 22 LSPR, we were starting off and we started 62nd on the road. Well, after day one and passing a couple cars, we got reseated to like mid-20s.
Yeah.
And
it's a whole nother race at that level,
class.
like road condition wise.
Yeah, we were second in our class, and you had, I think, 6 minutes on us. And we were just out there having fun, and we're like, well, let's see what else we can do. Well, on the second running of, well, what they called it then was Wildcat Pavilka. So, well, we got a little bit of air and landed on the soft stuff on the outside of the corner that got swept off. And there was no turning from that point. It was straight understeer, bounced off a huge boulder, and high-sided on the dirt berm. Are we not starting it like like Mike Shaw in the open paddock, talking about what we're drinking?
I think we could do an homage. I've actually already started recording. Okay, so what you
Just
drinking?
another rally podcast that I've listened to.
Yeah, we got to give it up to Mike. There's been a lot of his I've definitely listened to. So what are you drinking?
Got a Diet Mountain Dew, fresh out of the fridge. That's it.
I've got a
Nothing
summer
fancy.
heat Mexican style lager with jalapeno peppers and raspberry. It's pretty
That
bad.
sounds like something right up Mike's lines.
Maybe. I'm not a big fan of it. It was left here at a party over the weekend, so it's got some tang. I don't know if that's a good thing. So what was your first rally?
That I watched, that would be 2013 LSPR.
Is it
So I had been trying to get in and watch Rally for a couple of years previous to that, but I was still pretty young. I was in high school, but one of my buddies, Ian Seffanen, was racing a 240 SX back then, and some of the guys that were older that I kind of knew were crewing for him, and I wanted to get out there. So funny story, my failed attempt in 2012 to go watch was I had okayed it by my parents. Everything was ready to go. And I slept in from school that day. And I woke up about 10 minutes before my bus was supposed to drop me off at home. So all day long I slept in. And I'm thinking, like, oh man, like, I'm going to get in trouble for this. I'm not going to be able to go to the race if, my parents found out that I missed school. They overslept by like 8 hours. So I snuck out the door and I hid in the bushes on the other side of the bus stop. And the bus drove by and dropped some kids off that were kind of, at my same stop. And I got out of the bushes and I walked home just like nothing was a problem. Yeah. Come to find out, parents are usually smarter than you think. And I was grounded and wasn't able to go to 2012. So 2013, I had graduated. I was at Michigan Tech for the time. And so I was up there anyways. And pre-rain, had my 96 Civic, and my now wife, then girlfriend, came up to kind of join with me, and we went and watched. So,
was that her first rally too, I assume?
Yep, that was her first race too. She never really had any sort of background about any of that, but it was kind of an eye-opening experience for me that it's like, wow, this girl could not care less about cars, no background on that, but she's willing to hang out with me and go do something that I'm super interested in. And so that one was, I learned I loved Rally, and I learned that I loved her. So we got married a couple of years after that and whatever. But 2013 LSPR was a cool one because this was David Higgins versus Ken Block. Came down to LSPR for the championship.
I crewed for that one for some friends. That was his big roll year.
Yep. So it was kind of all or nothing sort of thing. So I was on Herman watching on day 2. And this would have been ran north to south, and about maybe 3/4 of the way through, there's a big kicker, kind of a flat jump that is like in the middle of a right 3. So we watched Higgins come through. We were expecting Ken, and Ken didn't come through, and Anton Lafarge came through. So we're thinking, well, what happened to Ken? Well, later we found out that the previous stage, Arbonne, he did that really big roll, and pretty much that was the end of his championship careers.
I remember that year it was leaving the kind of the after party where they're serving us like plate spaghetti in the Rasmussen Hotel or something. And I come down and just kind of like bump into Ken because he wasn't really planning on going. I guess he was just like around. And the look on his face, though, was still like pretty white. I was like, oh, man. I was like, hey, are you okay? And he just kind of gave the thumbs up and was like, oh, man, something scared the shit out of him.
Yeah, it was a big crash. Yeah, looking back, obviously they have a video that they released some of the stuff out there, and yeah, it was pretty serious. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what I knew Ken as, was he's going to go 100% and go for the win, or he's going to crash out trying. So,
I think you mimicked that
when I
pretty
was
well. You're either on the podium or you DNF lately, it seems, and that's an interesting combo.
Yeah, I suppose I maybe like to think that I'm a little bit more level-headed, but the red can show and whatnot. But a funny story about crewing was, I was on that corner and I met this guy, and he was saying, "Well, I live around here, and I was going to race it, but I broke my Jetta at Ojibwe, and I didn't get it fixed. So now I'm here. I'm just volunteering and whatnot." That guy was Al.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Jetta sounds familiar.
Yeah, so and I had been around the sport a little bit, but not really super involved with it. I didn't know who people were and whatnot. But the impression that Al gave me from me seeing him at the next race, he said, "Where's your girlfriend, man? Like, she didn't want to come to this one?" And I'm like, this guy, we hung out for like, a couple hours or whatnot.
Sure.
And I didn't think anything of it, but he knew everything about me. And that then continued into me hanging out and saying hi at every single race that we went to.
Yeah.
He would say happy birthday on my birthdays, and he congratulated me for when me and my wife got married and whatever. So that's how I met Al. That was a pretty special thing. And
that's
just
a great Al story.
Kind of continued or fortified how special rally and the rally people in the community can really be. So,
as lame as it sounds, it is another family. I mean, for Ken, was he a big influence to you getting started? Did that help draw exposure, or just from being interested in rally, you're like, oh, this guy's also into rally too?
Well, I think like a lot of people maybe my age or at that time, you see Gymkhana 1 come out, Gymkhana practice, and you're like, what is this guy doing with this car? I had, my first car was a 1990 Subaru Loyale, which was a stark difference from what he was racing, but I was kind of a Subaru fanboy growing up, and watching him race for Subaru, and then I was heartbroken when he switched over to Ford. I'm like, why is he switching over those pieces of junk? But yeah, I mean, that was certainly probably maybe the first time I really got into understanding what you could do in a car, and I'm like, who is this guy and whatnot. So yeah, then to see that, when I started watching racing, then it was a weird sort of, who do I like more? Because at that time it was either Ken or David Higgins.
Yeah.
And I liked Ken's kind of flat out attitude, but also David Higgins' kind of very calculated approach to racing. And he always seemed like he had a little bit more in the pot if he needed to. So yeah, definitely a big influence for me though, growing up. And we at one of our races had won the 43i Institute Flat Out Forever Award, which was kind of just a really amazing thing to be considered for that. So,
well, you guys earned it. They don't just hand those out. That's a real awesome way to really recognize kind of the spirit of rally, and that was a big part of Ken's legacy even before. I mean, I imagine if there hadn't been the accident, I think he would have been a couple years away from probably implementing the same policy. It's a passion project for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's awesome to see that his family is still involved in the sport.
Right.
You can tell that Ken did so much in so many different aspects, but, I think his heart was really in motorsport and racing. And it's cool to see that his family continues on with that, whether it's doing little rally sprints every once in a while down in Texas with Texas Dave, or, obviously what Leah had done last year or in 23. And now obviously she's off to maybe bigger and better things, but I could argue that she'd,
well, there's always a home for her in rally.
Racing professionally in rally.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there's the F1 Academy. I mean, I'm sure they got pretty strict contracts when it comes to, let's say, extracurricular activities they can do. So I'm sure she'll
You
go
got to
back.
fit it into a schedule. Yeah.
Yeah. So you went from a Subaru fanboy to a BMW. Tell me about how you got your 325.
Yeah. So I had a 96. So my first car was a 1990 Subaru Loyale, 5-speed sedan. I learned how to drive stick in that car by my parents parking in an open parking lot. And then I would back the car up and flip it around so that instead of pulling into a parking spot, we were now ready to just, put it in first gear and go out there.
Yeah.
And that involved holding it at about 3,000, 3,500 RPM and just kind of getting on and off the clutch. And that's how I taught myself how to drive stick. And then, when my parents weren't home, we had maybe a 150-yard driveway at my parents' house. And I would see how fast I could get that Subaru down the driveway before I'd have to slam on the brakes before either going into the street or hitting the house. So I definitely had kind of that speed sort of thing in me. And then unfortunately on my way to school one day, I got rear-ended in that car and we were like, well, we need a car. What's available for maybe $1,000 bucks? So then I picked up a 96 Civic.
What year was this?
And I drove that. This would have been 2013, I think, my senior year of high school. So I got into that. I drove that thing and probably put 100,000 miles on it. And then brought me through my first year of school at Michigan Tech. And then I ended up actually transferring to University of Minnesota Duluth, where my now wife was at. And at that point, I had a buddy that was really big into BMWs. And I thought they were just the coolest things out there.
Is that buddy Nikkinen?
It was the Nikkinen oldest brother.
Oh,
Andrew
really?
Nikkinen.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's 3 brothers there. There's Andrew, and then there's Matt, and then there's Josh. And all of them are, following racing. And Andrew was actually the person who was crewing for Ian Sefferman back in 2013, kind of those time frames. And
okay.
the person that was, I was trying to hitch a ride with for my first race. And he had a 1998 318 Ti E36 that was kind of crashed. It was a little bit of a let's fix this up, flip it sort of thing. I ended up buying that for him for $1,200, and that's kind of where my love-hate relationship maybe with BMW started. So I took that car and went from pretty much not needing to do anything on my Civic to not only having to fix stuff, but also wanting to kind of get that itch to go ahead and modify it. So those came with a 1.9 liter 4-cylinder that made maybe 130 horsepower or so, and that got boring after a while. So then I was trying to figure out, well, what can I do next? And apparently you can take the 6-cylinder from the higher level E36s and BMWs at the time and just kind of plop it in there. So that car taught me how to go ahead and wrench on stuff, and kind of started that love for it. So then when I got into rally, I'm like, well, I really know BMWs. I've been around these for a long time. A lot of my other buddies, Matt got a BMW and had a couple, so we would wrench on BMWs all the time. And so that's when Gabe's car popped up for sale. And I had previously watched it at Ojibwe. And he said, I'm throwing it up for sale. I'm kind of done with it. It needs a bit of work, but I just wanted to go to a good home and have somebody go ahead and have fun with it and race it and whatnot. So at the time, my wife was pregnant with our first kid, and I had been looking to try to buy a car to just get in it. Everybody says, oh, should you build one? Should you buy one? And the determination was, well, if I buy one for pretty cheap, I might not be so sad if I wrap around a tree at my first event.
Very definite possibility. You only get one chance to finish your first rally.
Yep. So at that point, that was in Madison, that car. So I went and picked that car up for, I think, $8,000. And, and I kind of told my wife, I said, this is available. I really feel like if I'm going to do it, this is kind of the one to get started with and whatnot. And she said, if you want to go do it, go get it. It's pretty awesome to have a supportive wife that,
Yeah.
might not understand what the passion is or why you'd be so crazy to go strap yourself in a car and, do, 90-mile-an-hour sideways through the woods. But yeah, so that's where I got the 325 from.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, it's nice to have a supportive wife for that, or maybe an enabler. We can call her in this instance. That's always good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which rally's been your favorite so far? I mean, you did a lot of Midwest, kind of central region, but what's been your favorite?
I think, the cliche of, probably LSPR, either LSPR or 100 acre.
LSPR is not cliche. It's an opinion. Everyone can
Yeah.
have an opinion.
Well, and it's the one I'm used to growing up in the UP. Those are kind of the roads that I knew of. And it's a very, probably, it's a tough event. The weather's always super weird with it. The first year that we went racing, it was snowing and muddy.
That was a great year.
That was pretty fun. I was with you. But yeah, so probably LSPR. And my mom, who is an eye doctor in Marquette, usually throws us a couple bucks to go ahead and enter the race with her banner on the back window. So Superior Eye Health Center. So it helps ease the pain a little bit of being at the end of the season and be like, I have no money left to do any more racing. She's like, well, here you go. We'll put it under marketing for me.
There you go. If you had to pick, is there like a bucket list rally that is an obtainable one? I understand who knows, you might win the lottery and you're going to do Rally Barbados or something, but is there like a realistic bucket list of like, man, if I could do this one next rally, different from the Namaji, Lake Superior, kind of Ojibwe headwaters you've done, what would you pick and why?
I think probably the attainable one, which I'm still trying to decide if I want to try to do it this year, would be Sulphur, Southern Ohio.
It's a good one.
I've heard those roads are really awesome, really super loose, but I do like typically races where you can kind of see through corners a little bit more. I think what I really need to do is probably just tag along with Matt or something and go watch some of those races and then decide what I want to actually race.
Yeah. What about Snowdrift? Why don't you want to come down?
I would do Snowdrift.
That's good.
The interesting thing, I did volunteer at Snowdrift one year. This was probably 2017 or something. We brought my BMW down, my TI, and it was an interesting one because it was just pure ice that year.
Yep.
And you're just standing on a snowbank, kind of watching people come through the corner at maybe 5 miles an hour, and half of them spin out and get stuck in a snowbank.
Yeah, ice drift's not ideal.
It's an interesting one for sure.
I'm always trying to recruit more two-wheel drive for that event. It's just, it'll make you giggle. It's just, it's a rally. Just don't, sure, take it serious, but, don't take yourself serious while you're out there, and you're going to really have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and, growing up in the UP, we get snow all the time. So,
right.
I think I attribute a lot of my car handling ability to just pretty much sliding a BMW through the middle of winter everywhere. And so, yeah, I'd be down for it. We'll see. Definitely if I end up ever running a national championship, which I'd like to do in the next maybe few years or so, maybe in a different car. But I'd definitely do Snowdrift. It'd be on the list.
You'd be surprised. It's decided championships before, and if you don't participate, you kind of lose the opportunity.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I told Matt Nickinen. He was looking at doing the national series. I said, there's a lot of guys that will typically run rear-wheel drive or open two-wheel drive, like Ryan Booth and whatnot. And if they do that race, they'll just rent a four-wheel drive car. So I said, if you are super serious about, doing the full season, you got to do Snowdrift, and you got to be smart about it, because you'll likely not have a whole lot of competition. But at the same time, if you overcook a corner because you're trying to go 5 seconds faster through a corner and you end up spending 5-10 minutes in a snowbank and you get beat by like a Honda Civic or something like that, it's you got to play it smart on that one. So luckily he went down, he followed my advice, and yeah, he ended up getting first in class on there, and right now he's leading the championship, kind of with that little head start compared to some of the other guys. So
I'm definitely going to have to give him a call and just talk to him midway through the season, maybe at the next event, see how it's going. Do you know if he's trying to attend SOFR or not this year?
Yeah, yep, he's trying to do everything except for Olympus. Oregon.
I was surprised to see him do, a West Coast event because he's not obviously going for overall, points, so he doesn't have to tow all the way to the West Coast because he can do an East Coast and a Central region and still, make the points. But to throw that into the championship, I think that's really cool, and I mean it's costly, but it's definitely, once in a lifetime opportunity in some instances. We got like 5 minutes left. I want to ask you a quick, rapid fire series of questions. You ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Evans or Ogier?
Oh boy, I'd say Evans. I don't know if Ogier is a little overplayed, but I like Evans as kind of seems like his approach to it, and his onboards are pretty funny because he's just got his mouth wide open the whole time. So I'll pick Evans.
Okay, Sex or Munster?
Who was the first one?
Sex. Martin Sesks.
Oh boy. Oh, that one's hard.
You gotta be faster.
Michael. Yeah. Okay. Munster.
Mickelson or Katsuta?
Katsuta.
Lappy or Sordo?
Who was the first one?
Esapeka Lappy?
Oh, I gotta pick the Finn. We're going Lappy.
Solberg or Pyari?
Oh, we'll do Solberg. Solberg is, being able to watch him race in the U.S., it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I got a chance to quote unquote race with him in STPR, but he was one of the 5 cars that actually got to compete in every stage of that rally. But that's a story for another day. Rosell or Grayson? Mickelson or Katsuta?
Katsuta.
Lappy or Sordo?
Oh, I gotta pick the Finn. We're going Lappy.
Solberg or Pyari?
We'll do Solberg. Being able to watch him race in the U.S., it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Rosell or Grayson?
I don't even know if I know those guys.
All right. Gravel or tarmac?
Gravel.
Snow or rain?
Snow.
Group A or Group B?
Ooh, that one's hard. I'll probably go with Group B just because of the aura around it. But
sure.
Group A is where I think a lot of that development of where we're at right now. That's where it started as far as the level of cars. Group B is just nuts stuff, so I'll go Group B.
Super 2000 or Group N?
Super 2000.
Are you pro or against hybrid WRC?
Con. Put some gas in it and rip it.
Toyota or Subaru?
Oh, boy. Well, Subaru isn't in it anymore, so I could say Toyota. Toyota is definitely the number one right now, but I still can't get over, old Colin McRae or, Solberg racing back in like 06, 07. Those were the sweet cars.
Yeah, I even enjoyed the Atkinson era. All right, last question. This is going to be a triple threat. Clarkston, Hammond, or May? Who's your favorite?
Clarkson. Speed and power.
There is one other thing we can talk. Rally Portugal, I think, is next.
League.
Yeah. Do you have any Portugal predictions?
I mean, Toyota's been kind of dominating this year. Yeah, and I do really like that car. I would argue that they probably have probably the largest budget and maybe the most development on that car versus Ford or Hyundai right now. So the results are kind of showing with that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Do you have a 1, 2, 3?
If Ravin Pera can keep it on the road, I'm going to say he's number 1. I do really like Ottanic. Maybe Evans. We'll see. That'll be my 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Oit does pretty good at Portugal. Let's see, for WRC 2, this is going to be a good one. We'll have Solberg, Rosell, Greensmith, Jan Solans. That's about it. And Nikolai Grayson. This is a big Rally 2 car class. This is bigger than, let's see, 49. Oh, okay, here we go. So between entry 65 and 13. Yeah, so there's like 50 cars that are Rally 2 cars. We'd be lucky to get some of those as an entry.
The availability of somebody going to buy a Rally 2 versus a Rally 1, especially with hybrid right now. I mean, there's a reason why there's only 6 Rally 1 drivers going on right now, which is a real shame.
Yeah.
It's just the amount of investment that you got to put into the development for an actual Rally 1 car. It's a lot easier for somebody to just hop into a Rally 2 and go for it. Oh, Chris Meek's running.
Yeah, and James Fulton, so it's Craig Breen's co-driver. This is going to be for Yuki Yamamoto, who I know has been a promoter under Taka kind of for Rally Japan stuff. So
Nice. Yeah.
That's nice.
Should be a good event.
Yeah, this will be a good one to watch. Yeah, the WRC2 battle. I wish I had the time to just sit down and watch both of them, but I'm probably going to have to just pick a couple stages and follow along. All right, so we're going to talk about the 2025 Olympus Rally two-wheel drive. Who we want to highlight. I know we're going to talk about our friend Nikkinen a lot. Sear, let's see, help tell the story. Sean Johnson, 208, come on, purple. Where are you at?
I mean, everybody knew that he was going to be at the top of the list if his car held together, which those Peugeots have been doing pretty good so far.
That was 1-2 Peugeot. Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Burke, okay, so Seamus, green for the Irish. Hooper, gotta have Hooper.
Yep.
Kind of got a mix of national. I mean, Dave Clark this far up for regional. I mean, but that's and even at a 4-minute penalty.
4-minute penalty. What's that from?
I think it's probably a series of them. 25 minutes late. No, that'll do it. Yeah.
Yep.
So where would that put him at? 25, 50. Oh man. He'd be in between.
He's fast in that car.
He's
really fast. I'd like to meet him. Obviously, previous owner of Rally Build.
Yeah.
A lot of the inspiration that I've seen for builds on E36s and BMWs and stuff, I've kind of referenced a lot of his stuff from. So, obviously, West Coast guy. Haven't been out there yet, but no, it'd be awesome to meet him and chat with him and see how his stuff's going. But yeah. That blue M3 that he's got is sweet.
Yeah. So let's do stage by stage. Peugeot. Then Hooper, Clark, Seamus, Richo. Dang. And this is him up with the open build instead of the limited IS3 Lexus car.
Yeah, so for this event, it sounds like Hooper did a bunch of updates to his car. Sounds like he was trying to get them maybe done before 100 Acre, but then I don't know exactly what happened there. He ended up not starting, so... but yeah, so sequential, I don't know what he's got as far as other upgrades and stuff, but it seems like it's worked out for him at least for the start of it, and then, if I recall right, he DNF'd with a broken diff. Yep, so... Yeah. But it seems like he's got a lot more speed because, coming from what we were racing last year, Matt and I, obviously Hooper was running national, we were running regional, but, I've been kind of some stages neck and neck with Hooper. And
yeah.
Whatever he's got going on with his new build and his upgrades and stuff, I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore.
See, there's nothing really too much. I don't really know anything about the limited cars other than it's going to be a Tabor battle and a couple of egg-shaped cars and Chris Sear in another egg car.
Yep, Chris has been pretty dominant in the limited two-wheel drive so far. I think even for this one, he had, I don't know if it was $100 or something like that. He had a bounty on his head for anybody that could beat him on a stage in limited two. Ooh. And I think, Tabor did squeeze out, if I recall, it was like a 1/10 of a second faster.
Oh, nice.
Stage. So he got his money. Chris paid up, but kind of a fun little battle and kind of a competition going on there.
Are you familiar with the Olympus Rally? Do you know much about kind of the stages?
Not really. It's the first time that I've ever kind of known somebody personally that's been running out there with Matt running.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's totally different than kind of our Midwest stuff over here. I know that, speaking with Matt, he was a little bit thrown off with, I guess, kind of the treacherousy of the roads. I think he kind of had a little bit of a hard time finding his pace off the start there.
I mean, still
Which was a little
considering
surprising.
if he was having issues finding pace, he's still like top 5, top 7, on an unfamiliar stage. I mean, he's Sierra's doing quick and even beating Burke in the first one. You have it's really just kind of like an onslaught of Peugeot and then everybody else. This is what it must look like. Is this the new two-wheel drive like comparison to Open 4? Because I mean, Open 4 you just see two factory Subarus and professional
that
drivers.
car is really well sorted out.
Oh, it looks good
Yeah, the
too.
people that are running that, those cars are fast and they're good, and especially with a driver like Sean Johnston,
Yeah.
that's like I don't know, top 5 contender. I don't know exactly how he finished overall on that,
I
but
I hope to see those two
he was
compete in
fast.
WRC2 some more for this year.
8th overall is what he finished in, which is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, so all right, so stage 2, then it goes Schaefer, Deckerville, and then Wildcat. So that's kind of the opening loop, and then they get into the famous Wildcat stage. It seems like it's very much kind of a after the Peugeots, you have a mix of Hooper, Clark, Nicken, and Burke. Sears kind of coming and going, and Bailey and Julian are just chomping at the heels. So there's still a
Yeah, it
few
kind of
minutes
seems like
apart.
whoever's been feeling a rhythm on some of these stages is kind of where they get out on that. Sometimes Chris, it seems like a good example of somebody that's doing pretty hot, and then kind of at least in what we're comparing here, sometimes other ones a little bit farther down the list. But yeah, it seems like whoever could find a rhythm in some of these technical stages was the ones that were doing really well on it.
You can see the Tabors way up here. I mean, this is famous for them in this area. So this is a popular stage. So you can see like locals doing really well on that long, 17 and a half miles of technical and rough.
Yep.
And then they do it again. Or I don't know if it's a first, like a flip start reverse, but yeah, here's
so
when
Matt had
Nickens
a
had
little bit of
trouble.
an issue here.
Yeah, he dropped
Yep.
big
So he
time.
broke the diff bolt on the front diff bolt on his differential, and so I think on this one they threw a ratchet strap, I believe, around the front of the diff to try to hold it in. So that's where
Makes
that 30
sense.
second penalty came from. They were a little late into time control, and then I think they ended up trying to limp it through the rest of the day. So yeah, bummer. Dropped quite
Yeah.
a bit of time, especially on like Shayna's dropped 30 seconds on him. At an
Yeah.
event that's been as close as kind of what we've seen so far up until now, it's a little bit hard to claw back time from that.
I think it'll be an
You gotta
interesting
really love
year-end
Mayo.
battle by then, though. But you're right. These points hurt. But like you said, that's why he competed in Snowdrift. You really gotta start first and keep going.
The last thing you want to do is haul all the way out to West Coast and then bin the car unnecessarily. You know,
But anyway, so
Would-
Olympus Rally, it looks like this is after service because Matt comes back and then is just behind Hooper by 2 sec. Oh, that was a split. What was the overall time? 47. Okay, still 7 seconds there. 8. That was that's still pretty good over 13 and a half minutes. Because now we're on Dayton. Then he's top 3. Stillwater.
yeah. So I think
Power
day
stage.
2 started on stage 7. Yep. So yeah. So overnight, Matt was able to drill out the broken off bolt, and then I think they threw a big through bolt through there. So yeah, he was back in the battle there.
Oh man, and he almost got Sean towards the end. He was starting to get into another rhythm there. I mean, Hooper and Burke fall back. I don't know what happened with McHale here and the other Peugeot, but
We're looking at all these things, and sometimes the people that are at the top of the list, will drop down to, like, for example, Dave Clark in here, he's down to 7th. So, with, how rough some of those stages are, I think it's a little bit of luck too, if you don't have a flat, if you don't break something, if you
Yeah.
find a rhythm, like, you can find yourself really high up on the list here. But yeah, it'd be an interesting one to race. I'd like to get out to West Coast at some point.
Yeah, that's definitely a bucket list of mine too. I'd like to try and do both, or I don't know if it'd be hard enough to just pick one, but I feel like if I could pick one, I could squeeze both.
Well, that's what a lot of guys do is they'll run Olympus and they'll leave the car out there at somebody's shop.
Yep.
They'll fly back and hope that they don't have to do a big lot of reprep, and then they'll fly in for Oregon a couple weeks later. So
And hope that they don't get their shit stolen.
yes, yep, I know that's been a thing in the past. Isn't that where was Roberto's car stolen from that, or was it
No,
a
I
different
think
event?
that
I
was
can't remember.
Georgia area, South Carolina, I believe, at that time.
Okay, but yeah, make sure you know where you're leaving it.
Right. Yeah, it's very easy to get GPS trackers that go on there that have a very, very long battery life, and you can get the services for relatively cheap for like 5-10 years.
Yep, for sure.
Let's see. Well, that's about all I got there for Olympus. Any parting words for us today, Levi?
Go out there, have fun, be kind to each other, help each other out, go fast, don't crash, stuff like that.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's it. We'll wrap it up. Thanks, everyone, for listening and tuning in. We had a great chat today. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll look forward to next time. We'll have Alex Larson on and talk about some of the next rallies coming up as well. Media people, please, you need to work on a one-pager. I know you might not be corporate, but feel corporate, but if you can't do an elevator speech, you got to be able to do a business card within an image. We'll get you guys advertised on here, have you help promote your own galleries, and especially after events to help get the news out. Share some of your images. It'd be great to help get your name out there. Contact me at firstcarout@gmail.com, as well as any other inquiries or interest into the podcast. If you'd like to be on the podcast, please drop me a note, and we'll start a discussion. Thanks as always, and remember, do one thing a day.